The obvious first question is, how many times have you been called the soup Nazi?
Actually, there are a lot of soup jokes. If we have time later, I can go into them. Actually, you're the first. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'm amazed.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. I'm just trying to understand the revenue share. So if you place talent into a shoot, what's the split? What's your take on each project? How does the pricing model work?
Yes, sir. So the question is, how does the pricing model related to a revenue share, revenue split with an affiliate of ours if we have another agency? It's 70-30 is kind of the standard. So if we tack 20% onto the cost of talent, we're going to take 30% in the transaction fee, and we're working out some of the bugs in what that final percentage looks like, but that's pretty close. And then the sponsoring agency that loaded their talent into the system will take 70%. But because our carry cost is zero, our recruiting and booking costs are pretty much nil as well. We think that that's a really scalable approach to booking revenue. So,
can you just describe what the barriers to entry are? I mean, you look at, it would take Omnicom, very little time to probably develop something like this.
Sure.
They have a history of having competitive agencies in the same town to compete against each other, so
yes,
you
sir.
would be a natural either addition to their portfolio, or they would just build something like this.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have two things in our favor, and we have a two-pronged approach to dealing with it. The first is the existing business model, 70 years of entrenched competitors that have built beautiful, hard, solid walls that crumble, is that their business model won't support making a 180-degree change toward opening up a legitimate marketplace for the space. So we've already seen reactions from competitors where they're not looking at how to embrace it. They're looking at how to dig in and protect their fiefdom, if you will. That plays to our favor. And the second one is, and it's simplistic, the talent community in general they frankly feel really exploited. And if you were to go type in talent scam or modeling scam on Google, you would get millions and millions of hits, because it's not known the industry's not known for its transparency, for treating people properly, for looking at win-win opportunities. And it's kind of the culture that we've created at Talent Soup that is going to help us navigate those channels. On the back end, the barriers to entry, it is about scale. On the front end, we're competing with an old, archaic business model that is going to be tough for them to turn on and cannibalize itself. And the second one is we actually are developing a back office play for the agencies themselves, where they can load their talent into the system or let the talent do it. So again, reduce their labor cost to managing their talent to zero. The software is free. The marketplace gets access to the talent, but then if they want to just utilize the marketplace and leverage that with existing relationships, they can still do it. I think that's going to help us spread ultimately into an existing market of brick and mortar companies on top of being able to scale the technology. So did I answer the question? Good, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience from Aflac's side? Is there I understand the cost advantage, but is there a user experience advantage as far as, can they search more easily? Can they do it themselves? Can they screen? Is there a system for ranking talent that says, this person was Lindsay Lohan on the set.
Right.
We'll never work with her again.
Yes,
could you go a little bit into that?
Sure, actually, and a great question. The 1.0 platform supports everything you've said on a self-service, on the self-service side. Right now, some of that is administrative on the beta platform. The 1.0 platform has a feedback loop for both photographers and on talent. And right now, we have collaboration tools that make the searching dead simple. We have a matching engine that really makes demographics, height, weight, hair color, skin tone, tattoos, piercings, ability to juggle. I mean, we capture a huge amount of data per talent. And right now, the process is fairly straightforward and fairly simple. The 1.0 platform takes that to a new level and provides for online collaboration, easy real-time screening where you like this person, but you want to kind of broaden the scope a little bit. We have geocentric searches, so you can actually search around where you're shooting for talent in that area, et cetera. So all of the things you described, yes, They're in varying stages of development or being managed by an admin side of things. And these are ads running, by the way, that are just some of the what are called tear sheets that we've done in the last couple of years. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess just one quick follow-up,
Sure.
which is why then are you only showing, I guess, what is it, $12 million of revenue or $13 million? Why aren't you, massively displacing the market? Why aren't you saying, you know what, we're going to get, maybe you've got one that's, the baseball players running out of the dugout with
Right.
70 people in the background. For any shoot that's of that type where you don't have somebody that is front and center, why aren't you picking up all of that market share? Why aren't you, $50 million?
Well, two things. I didn't have time in the presentation to talk about. The creation of Talent Soup spun out of a company my wife and I founded in 2003 that she runs called Stir Productions. And it's a production company for advertising imagery. And not to say we didn't take Talent Soup seriously, but it was a side project up until about a year and a half ago, where it was a revenue stream for Stir, but our job was production, and that was our focus. And this, originally, the software was built as an internal project to help us manage castings. So the revenue is coming, and ultimately, part of the reason I'm standing up here is to help streamline that process and have the right input, ultimately, from Jamie Barden and some other folks. But in the short answer is, I don't really have a great reason other than the fact that now I am a full-time Talent Soup employee, and now we're really taking the training wheels off of this thing starting about 6 months ago. So that's a little weaker answer than I would like to have, but we continue to grow organically and virally and are doing pretty amazing things given how capital efficient we are. So please, sir.
How big of a problem is it for agencies today to select the talent on a specific ad? And how do you ensure here that there's not, information overload to the agencies, and also making sure you're, what's your quality control on the talent?
Sure. That's a great question as well. Quality control, interestingly, we've had this question before. Well, how do you know who you're sending? And if you're kind of a virtual agency, you don't meet everybody, obviously. The problems we've had in the last 2 years with agency talent through the production, buying faces out of the production side of the business with brick and mortar companies, have been worse than they have out of the Talent Soup. And part of it is we keep them very well informed. There's lots of points where they're touched through the technology, and we pay them the day of their project. And so we have a 100% success rate of the people showing up. There have been a couple of times when somebody was a little heavier than they looked in their image, or like me, they lost their hair and they had some old pictures with dark hair, that sort of thing. The other side of the coin, though, is the filtering effect. When you look at the way talent is selected for a project, on the agency side, often if you went into a modeling agency, you would literally see a wall of cards. And they have it's called a comp card, and it's several pictures of their model, maybe some stats about them. And the old way, which is still the current way of doing things, is a talent booker, model booker, literally goes to the wall with the demographic of a project in mind and just starts pulling people out that they think would be a good fit, and they courier them to an agency or a photographer, that sort of thing. The Talent Soup selection engine on the front end provides for 3 buckets, if you will, for talent. There's raw search returns, there's photographer producer selects, which typically in our business, the layers of creatives involved in this process, they each contribute a little bit to that screening process. And then the third bucket is what does that individual want to send to the end client, the agency or Coca-Cola or AT&T or that sort of thing. So that part of it is just a tech-enabled version of what they are already doing. So did I answer your question? Okay.
Just a question. Are you doing anything to kind of pull the brands right to the talent? Because it sounds like you've got word of mouth strategy for the talent itself.
Yes, sir.
And you're probably getting some level of exposure to the agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing anything direct to the brands to pull them back into this?
That's a spectacular question, and because up until now there's never been an agency that could provide, as an example, AT&T's talent needs for a year. There has never been anybody that could ultimately have all of this talent aggregated in one spot and be able to go to the end client, a Fortune 50 or Fortune 500, and say, give us all of your business. we're exploring that right now. I think the value proposition for us right now, the buying side of our equation on the client side, it is really about, we have a lot of experience in dealing with commercial photographers and producers, and that's a natural entryway into that market. And I think it's natural. It'll naturally go lateral at the end of at the end of the day. But I'd love Mr. Berry, I'd love your input. If you have some ideas about what that looks like, I would welcome them, please. Mr. Chu.
I just have a quick question on the market sizing. So I guess you say that of the $150 billion advertising industry, about $5 billion, or for you guys, $1.75 billion is spent on talent. How much of that is for agency fees that you're competing for?
The standard agency agreement with their models is they take 20% from the model and they add 20% to the client side. So when we were running through our projections to put the financials together, we averaged it out at about 35% of the total space. And I can't do the math in my head standing on stage right now. But looking at that's about roughly what the split is with the talent and the average gross profit for the modeling agencies. Really at issue, and again, this comes back to creating a great experience for the talent. We've been really transparent with them in explaining how our revenue system works. I mean, not open book necessarily, but we let them know if I booked Mr. Berry for an AT&T project and we paid him $1,500, which, by the way, we have an AT&T casting going on right now. I recommend you all go to talentsoup.com and sign up. And I'm totally serious. We would let you know we made, $300 on that project, just so that everybody's above board. We're not hiding behind anything, and that is creating a real culture of trust among the agency, among the talent side, and it's reflected in their comments on actors boards and forums and how do I get into modeling and all those types of things. I mean, we're seeing the net result of just treating people well and really using our technology to do something great in that community that is a great business. So, did I answer your question, Mr. Chief?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Anybody in the back?
Next.
Somebody has a question. I guarantee it. There's one question that's nagging you.
Yeah, let me. So, can you talk a little bit about your sales process into the Home Depots of the world, the Coca-Colas,
sure.
And then where you are now, and then where you see that in
sure.
2-3 years?
Yes, sir. So, I mentioned we haven't done any advertising on either the client or talent side up until now. Actually, that's not entirely accurate, but we've been placing some AdWords and Facebook ads in the last 6 months with talent on the talent side to just experiment a little bit. The current process essentially is a photographer locally is either somebody that's shooting here from outside. We've got a lot of New York and LA and international clients that are coming into Atlanta to shoot because of our, we have a lot of corporate headquarters, and BBDO still has a great presence here, that sort of thing. They, through word of mouth, will find either Stir Productions or Talent Soup, and more Talent Soup, and they call us for a quote, and they just say, here's the project, here's how the images are to be used, what is it going to cost? And we have a pricing engine that we use to plug in all the variables that will output what we consider to be a competitive price, very competitive price, and still provide for a good gross profit. Moving forward, though, the sales focus on the commercial photographer side is really about, obviously, viral, because they're a tight-knit community. They talk among themselves. Affiliations is a big one because we have access to the 21,000, give or take. We can get to all of them through 2 affiliations. One is the the American Society of Media Photographers, ASMP, and the Advertising Photographers of America, APA. And then traditional print media works great as well. PDN is the trade publication, and some small ads in that just kind of go straight to market. But the value proposition is it's quite provocative, and thus far we've experienced that in the last 2 years.
They're sitting here listening to you talk. It's very interesting. Your business model is similar to a business model that Kelly Services might have, or somebody like that. Have you sat down with anybody in that particular industry, understood what their value proposition was to their customers, and then how they further monetize it? Because it seems to me what you're doing is you're taking something that happens right now and you're making it more efficient.
Yes, sir.
Okay, in a particular industry sector. Now, I wonder if you could take a model from another industry sector and use that to generate something maybe even a little bit different than what's going on right now.
One of the greatest examples in our research and putting the plan together and kind of walking through this whole process and getting ready to speak to y'all has been looking at those folks that have come before. And one of the greatest examples, I think, is Travelocity. In 1996, there were 18,000 plus travel agents registered in the United States. And 1997, Travelocity lands, and I think 2 years later, there were 50% fewer travel agents than they were. So a Match.com is a kind of an interesting, do away with the romance model, or eBay to some extent. Well, it works for people, I think iTunes, there, to your point, there are lots of very similar structures that have done some great apple cart exploding in those spaces. And the truth of the matter is, I haven't sat down with any of them because I don't know any of those folks. So if anybody in the room has a connection, I would love to have an opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants and not reinvent the wheel, for sure. So.
The other thing I throw out too is that it seems to me that there would be some derivative value in having the talent's content, right? If you've done a number of different casting shoots or whatever,
sure.
Is that content itself.
Right.
If I'm certainly the brand, I may not want to go through the process of another shoot. I just want something that's quick and dirty that I can put up there, and maybe it drives a much larger, margin for you
right.
on that transactional business.
I think, and that's you guys are in the business of evaluating businesses. The not getting ahead of ourselves in the excitement of a current talent booking fee, just as a straight line item revenue. It's really simple and straightforward. There is so much meat here on the psychographic and demographic data that we collect on talent. There's multiple revenue streams in that. There are client services. There are multiple revenue streams in that. There's, as we open up this sort of an affiliate program where we allow a reseller account for existing brick and mortar agencies to play. You're absolutely right. And there's a strange trend, and I'll just share this quickly, that we've noticed over the last 2.5 years in the Talent Soup database. There is a very marketable look, and it's chaos theory. We can't nail it down, but we see about 20 or 30%. I'm sure it fits in a mathematical analysis somewhere. We see a very similar group of people being booked for projects that we would never have thought they would have chosen. It's pretty amazing, and there's something in that. There's something in facial recognition or metrics, and we're exploring a lot of those. I don't sleep a lot, so yeah, we're exploring a lot of those opportunities as well. So,
one final comment, which is true for most businesses, is don't underestimate the power of the person whose lunch you're eating. So you mentioned the existing agencies trying to FUD the talent. So think about that as a potential actual threat, but also try to think of that to your advantage. Are there partnerships that you can cut? Can you find someone that, maybe an existing agency or something to actually partner with and start to make them friends as opposed to keep them as enemies?
Sure. Well, and we've actually, the Affleck project, we sort of came out of the shadows, which was scary and exciting kind of at the same time, because I love the idea of sneaking around kind of guerrilla in the shadows and continue to grow the business and not show up on the radar of any of these folks. And Affleck turned the lights on big time. And there are local agencies, consistently small and boutique agencies, and some newer mid-size agencies in the Southeast that we've now started conversations with, just to say, this isn't about us replacing you. It's about the fact that this is the natural growth of this type of market, and are there some mutually beneficial ways to work together? And we're exploring that right now, Mr. Chief. Thank you.